Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is my definition of a perfect film. It's a combination of great writing, performances, set design, soundtrack that all come together to present an incredibly funny, yet heartwarming movie. It's also wonderfully paced, and each time I watch it, it feels like the movie just flies by, with scenes never running longer than they should. But as tight as this film feels now, it actually wasn't always the case. The original script of the film was over 145 pages long, almost twice the industry standard for this type of comedy. And it's not just the script that was long. The first cut of the film came in at almost 3.5 hours. The film's editor, Paul Hirsch, and John Hughes then cut the film down to 2 hours, but the studio still believed it to be too long, so they were forced to cut out another half an hour. This means that the length of deleted footage is actually longer than the final cut. And what's even more baffling is that outside of a single deleted scene, none of this original cut has ever been seen publicly.
I had a friend once who worked in the kitchens here, preparing the food. She lopped the top of her finger off slicing carrots one night. She looked in the pot. She looked for it, never could find it. She thinks it was served on the Singapore run. Isn't that something? Do you believe that they would do that?
Prior to his death in 2009, John Hughes even went on the record, stating that he believed this cut had probably deteriorated in a film vault somewhere. Some of this deleted footage made it into the theatrical trailer.
Ever been to Hawaii?
Yeah.
You see Don Ho while you were there?
See the second show, that's the best one.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Such as shots of Del imitating Elvis in the bathroom mirror, Neil eating pizza in the first motel. There's even a very quick line of dialogue from Neil in what looks to be the scene when they are pulled over by a state trooper.
Two happy clams just whistling down the road.
Michael McKean, who played that state trooper, has also gone on the record, stating that he filmed much more than what made it in the finished film.
It was supposed to be quite a bit longer, because I bring with me a piece of exposition, which is that they have overshot Chicago. They have gone 100 miles past Chicago. And I tell them, you're never going to get to Chicago if you keep doing this way. And I'm trying to straighten them out. They're fighting amongst one another, but they cut that whole piece about going beyond.
But we'll get to this sequence later on. Having read multiple versions of the script myself, including the alleged shooting script, I can understand why the film had to be cut down. But then there's also a few scenes that were cut that were wonderfully written. I'm sure in turn they were wonderfully acted, making me incredibly curious to see this lost version of the film. There are entire characters and subplots that are cut out of the film, which makes it all the more impressive that the final cut of this film works as well as it does. After reading this script and rewatching the film almost every Thanksgiving now, I began noticing several remnants of this original cut. These small remnants give clues to the original cut of the film, and I've decided to share some of these findings with you. So without further ado, let's take a look at the lost version of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
I guess you're not going to want your brownie now. No. Mind? Would you like half?
Oh, would you?
Certainly.
The first, noticeably missing section of the film occurs on the airplane after Del and Neil have met and are now sitting next to each other. Here's how the conversation goes in the finished film.
So what do you do for a living, Neil Page?
Marketing.
Marketing. Super. Fabulous. Isn't that nice?
Look, I don't want to be rude, but I'm not much of a conversationalist, and I'd really like to finish this article. A friend of mine wrote it.
Now, let's look how it's scripted. Del has 3 giant paragraphs of dialogue before Neil finally interrupts him. He goes on and on about shower curtain rings, Janet Leigh and Psycho, a Prince biography he read recently. It's a really funny little monologue that captures how much Del likes to talk. And if you watch the film closely, it's pretty obvious that they cut Del's speech after the first sentence, then cut right to Neil's line to hide the difference.
Marketing.
Marketing. Super. Fabulous. Isn't that nice?
Look, I don't want to be rude, but I'm not much of a conversationalist, and I'd really like to finish this article. A friend of mine wrote it.
Honestly, as funny as this dialogue is, it's not entirely needed. Candy's performance as Dell sells the character's love of talking enough. But I'm sure Candy made this little speech just great. Then of course we go to the only deleted scene that has survived, and is actually available on the DVD and Blu-ray of the film, in which Dell and Neil eat dinner on the airplane. This scene is commonly used in TV edits of the film, when they usually edit out the scene later in which Neil drops all those F-bombs. And I love this scene. It's so damn funny and well written that it once again makes me think that the 3-hour cut of the film might hold up just as well.
I always order a special meal. On this airline, I go with a seafood salad. On American, I'll have their kosher plate. Little slices of salami, some roast beef, some turkey, dark rye bread. Very nice. Now, if I'm flying United, I'll say I'm a youngster. They'll give me the kiddie plate. That's a hot dog, bag of potato chips, a gherkin, and a nice little bag of Oreo cookies.
What do you think this is?
Whew. Well, about 7 hours ago, that was lasagna. But with all the delays, they heat it, reheat it again, until, well, it looks like that.
So the next big missing sequence is one of the funniest scenes in the script. So as you know, Dell and Neil check into their motel where they must share a bed. This whole sequence is edited down to be pretty brief, all things considered. But remember that trailer shot of Neil eating pizza? Well, there's a whole scene where Dell orders a pizza and a 6-pack while Neil is in the shower. Dell can't find his wallet when the pizza arrives, so he pays for the pizza using Neil's wallet, which he finds in Neil's pants pocket. He informs Neil of this when he gets out of the shower. It's even alluded to the following morning in the diner scene, when Neil says this.
I had over $700 in here.
I didn't touch your dough, Neil. I'm a lot of things, but I'm not a thief.
You went into my stuff last night, right?
I didn't take your money, and I don't care for the accusation.
Well, I had over $700 in here, and you went into my wallet for pizza.
Watching this film, I always found Neil's accusation to come pretty surprisingly quick, and reading the script, it makes a lot more sense. Dell tells Neil about going through his stuff before they go to sleep, in another clip that made it into the trailer.
I was on my way home to spend a nice holiday with my family. Instead, I'm in a motel bed with a stranger.
There's another great exchange of dialogue, where Neil comes out of the bathroom after his shower. What smells? The pizza came. That's pizza? It's good. I saved you a slice. You didn't order me a salad? I asked you to. They didn't have a salad. I had them put extra vegetables on the pizza, though. Beautiful. And Neil goes to open the pizza box, and John Hughes writes, close up, the ugliest pizza ever made. Cheese, sausage, olives, green peppers, jalapenos, kraut, bacon, beans, corn, anchovies. There's also a scene where Neil opens a beer, which sprays all over him and the sheets, due to it being left on the vibrating bed, which again is alluded to later on.
I had no idea those beer cans were going to blow like that.
You left him on a vibrating bed. What did you think was going to happen?
It's been a long day. It just didn't occur to me.
Dell also only tips the delivery boy $1. The delivery boy then returns at night and breaks into their room to rob them. Yup, the hotel burglar who steals all their cash, who is left in the final cut, is actually the pizza boy from earlier that night. Makes total sense now that you think about it, right? I'm really amazed that so many of these scenes work without their context in the final cut, as when you watch this film you just kind of assume it's someone who breaks into the room, having no connection to these characters. So let's look at something a little more substantial that was cut.
I don't understand what Wichita has to do with a snowstorm in Chicago. What's going on, Neil?
It's actually the biggest subplot cut from the film. Neil's wife, Susan, believes that he is having an affair. There are entire pages of dialogue cut where Neil calls home to his wife. All of these scenes are cut or really trimmed down in the final cut. In essence, Neil keeps calling home, but his wife is growing very suspicious of the situation. She believes that this Dell her husband is spending so much time with is actually another woman. To make matters worse, Neil's coworker from the beginning of the film made it home on time because he waited out the snowstorm.
I'll see you in Chicago, John.
You'll never make the city.
This culminates in a scene where Dell and Neil stop at a roadhouse during their automobile portion of the film, and Neil calls home on a payphone. Susan says over the phone, "How's Dell? Why do you want to know about Dell? He's fine. A pain in the ass, but why do you want to know about him? You just better make sure you don't come home with his panties in your briefcase. Funny you should mention that. I dried off my face with them this morning." And Susan promptly hangs up. This is why Susan is so relieved to see Neil at the end, almost moved to tears by the sight of him and Dell. It's because she knows that her husband had been telling the truth all along. This adds so much weight to that final line of dialogue.
Hello, Mr. Griffith.
Hello, Mrs. Page.
As I mentioned earlier, Michael McKean, who plays the state trooper, has a bit more dialogue in the script. After he pulls the boys over, he reveals to them that they are in Wisconsin. They overshot their destination of Chicago. Of course, Dell and Neil then get into an argument and are soon arrested by the cop. To make matters worse, Neil is strip searched back at the police station. "I've never been strip searched before. Thank God you were clean. That's probably why I didn't bother checking me out. Just chalk it up to experience. It must have checked you pretty good. You were in there a long time." Why don't you shut up? I'm sorry, pal. I really am. I don't know how in the hell we got so lost. I was watching those signs religiously. From now on, I won't touch a car. We don't have a car anymore, you dickhead. And then Dell reveals to him that he didn't purchase any insurance on a destroyed rental car, which is in Neil's name. So Neil responds appropriately and punches Dell in the face. This is why for the rest of the movie, Dell has what appears to be a black eye. Okay, so the film is coming to an end, and I bet you're thinking there really couldn't be much more for them to cut, right? Well, you'd be incorrect. In the script, after Neil finds out that Dell had been lying about his wife and home, the two head to a coffee shop for a heartbreaking scene. Here, Dell tells Neil all about his life on the road, the death of his wife, their desire to have children, and the fact that he has no family left. When his wife died, Dell couldn't stand to be around the house without her, so he packed up all that he had into a trunk and made the road his home. There are only a couple still images that survive from this scene, but it looks like it was a very emotional scene. Particularly when Dell even explains to Neil how the holidays are rough, and it's usually then that he latches onto another human being the most, much like he did with Neil. In Nick DeSemelin's wonderful book on 80s comedy, he writes of discussing this deleted scene with Steve Martin. During the scene where Dell reveals that his wife has died, and explains that's why he attaches himself to people, Candy added the line, "But this time I couldn't let go." Long after Candy's death, Martin would get a tear in his eye remembering it. The script does end with Neil bringing Dell home for Thanksgiving, but rather than ending it after embracing his wife, it actually ends at the Thanksgiving dinner table, with a Thanksgiving toast. As far as I can tell, these scenes were also shot and repurposed during the sequence when Neil thinks of Susan lovingly on his final train ride home. There's so much more of this amazing Planes, Trains, and Automobiles script that I'm leaving out. There's little characters and interactions and funny lines of dialogue that are completely gone. I'm really not doing it justice just highlighting these brief scenes, but these are just a few of my favorites. In my mind, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is a perfect film. It's a movie I have to watch at least once a year, and honestly, it's just my favorite film of all time. And as perfect as it is, I read this script and wish for more. And every time I watch this film, I just don't want it to end. To know there exist two director's cuts, one with more footage than what is in the finished film, just makes me wish that we could see it. The script is great, the only deleted scene that exists in full is great.
Sir, excuse me. Would you like a bun?
That's fine. Flying's fun.
No. Would you like the bun?
What's that?
I'm offering you a bun.
Speak up.
You want the bun?
No, I just got started.
He said, do you want the bun?
Oh, yes. Thank you.
There you go.
I'm confident that this full version would be great, but also I should point out that no extended cut is ever going to take away from or diminish the abridged version of the film that we have today. It's a Thanksgiving institution at this point. But if Paramount is going to go through the resources to give us a remake that no one asked for, then they should also at least look into preserving and releasing this 3-hour cut, or at least a 2-hour cut. I'm sure this footage exists somewhere, and if Paramount doesn't want to restore it, then at least give it to someone who can, like Criterion or Shout Factory. I'd gladly even donate to a crowdfunding campaign to preserve the surviving print, instead of a bare minimum special edition Blu-ray that we have in its place. I guess in making this video, I wanted to bring attention to this lost cut, in the hope that together maybe fans who are interested can express their desire to see John Hughes' full vision for this story realized. Let's get Release the Hughes cut trending. Let's let Paramount know that there is an interest in this footage, way more so than any remake. It's probably wishful thinking, and maybe a fool's errand at this point. If nothing else, I'm glad we have some pieces of the puzzle to look back on what could have been. But we can also appreciate what is. A flawless film that can forever remind us to be thankful for the movie that we have, because, well, we could have not had any movie at all. And for that, I'm pretty grateful.